Hola, buenos días a toda nuestra audiencia de Enlace Latino. Tal como lo hemos informado, el día de hoy vamos a estar o estamos ya presentes en el Comité Judicial 2 de la Cámara de Representantes de Carolina del Norte, en la cual se llevará una votación por parte de estos representantes en cuanto al proyecto de ley HB10, el cual exigiría a los alguaciles colaborar con el ICE. En este lugar, pues, se encuentra nuestro periodista y cofundador Walter Gómez, quien nos dará y que nos permitirá ver en detalle la votación que se llevará a cabo. En esta votación, pues evidentemente estarán presentes seguramente Destin Hals, que seguro será el portavoz de presentar este proyecto. Luego vendrán las preguntas de los miembros del comité. Recordemos que son 10 integrantes, 4 demócratas y 6 republicanos, quienes estarán durante este proceso el día de hoy y darán paso a los comentarios públicos. Después se espera que se presente la moción de apoyar la propuesta y el presidente del comité, en este caso la presidenta y representante republicana Sarah Stevens, pregunta a los miembros quiénes están a favor, quienes están en contra y ya termina todo. Recordemos que este proyecto HB10 no solo exige a los alguaciles consultar al ICE por la residencia legal o ciudadanía americana cuando una persona es acusada de ciertos delitos y ha sido arrestada. También exige a un funcionario judicial que una persona arrestada, sujeta a una orden de detención, se mantenga en custodia durante 48 horas o hasta que el ICE dé respuesta a la solicitud. Además, las personas que son detenidas en un centro de reclusión local o del distrito, la HB10 agrega su alcance a quienes están en las cárceles satélites o unidad de liberación. ¿Quiénes pueden estar presentes para hablar en este momento durante esta discusión? Seguramente estarán los alguaciles del condado de Alamance, Rockingham, Henderson, quienes quizás pueden estar presentes en esta discusión y estar en contra de esta propuesta o de este proyecto. Seguramente los alguaciles del condado de Mecklenburg, Gary Fiden, Wake, Willie Rowett, de Durham, Clarence Birkenhead. Entonces, en este momento, pues vamos a dejar un poco para que escuchen el ambiente del lugar. En pocos minutos inicia la votación sobre este proyecto, de esta propuesta, el proyecto HB10, una propuesta republicana, una propuesta donde los primeros representantes de este proyecto serían Destin Hals, Brendan Jones, Jason Sain y Carson Smith, que son los principales patrocinadores de este proyecto de ley. Recuerden que también la HB10 es apoyada por el bloque republicano de la Cámara de Representantes. Tal como lo informamos a través de nuestros canales de WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram y Twitter, nos encontramos en este momento en el Comité Judicial 2 de la Cámara de Representantes, donde se llevará a cabo la votación de esta propuesta, proyecto de ley HB10, que exigiría a los alguaciles cooperar con el ICE. Entonces, los dejamos acá un poco con lo que es el ambiente y la organización que se está llevando en este momento. En el lugar se encuentra nuestro periodista y cofundador Walter Gómez.
I know what you like to do, but that's for members only. You can't put anything there.
Se encuentra organizando también a la prensa que se encuentra evidentemente dentro de la sala. Es lo que observamos en este momento. En este momento, pues, nuestro periodista no puede darnos declaraciones debido al tema de organización de la prensa en el lugar. Sin embargo, en cualquier momento nos estará contando detalles de lo que se está viviendo ahí, en el Comité Judicial 2 de la Cámara de Representantes de Carolina del Norte.
We have one bill for consideration, and we've been waiting for bill sponsors to get here. So, Representative Desmond Hall, Representative Brendan James, Representative Jason Zane, and Carson Smith, you are recognized to present your bill.
Tal como estamos escuchando en este momento, los representantes republicanos Justin Hall, Brendan Jones, Jason Zane y Carson Smith son los principales patrocinadores del proyecto HB10.
So what I want you to do is,
I'm sorry, sir.
I will tell you how much time you have and how
Sir.
much it's going to take.
I'm sorry. Come move.
You may present your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Members, if you've been here before, you're generally familiar with the contents of this bill. This is the third session that this bill has been presented to the body in some form or the other. And this bill, the form that the bill is in today, is actually the exact same way that it was during our last session. I'll start by telling you that almost every sheriff in our state already does what this bill would require. And up until 2018, every sheriff, as far as we could tell, already did what this bill would require. But unfortunately, again, in 2018, a very small number of sheriffs decided that
En este momento se está iniciando lo que es la votación en el Comité Judicial 2 de la Cámara de Representantes de Carolina del Norte. En este evento se hará la votación de lo que es la propuesta o proyecto de ley por parte de los republicanos que tiene que ver con la HB10, que exigiría a los alguaciles de alguna manera cooperar con el ICE. Vamos a dejar un poco el ambiente de lo que se está viviendo. Escuchemos.
these cases have not happened there, they've happened in other counties. This is one example of what can happen. So an illegal alien who had previously been deported before had been charged with assault on a female, communicating threats, felony larceny, and other charges. That individual, despite having an ICE detainer obliged against them by the federal government, was allowed to walk out of the Mecklenburg County Jail. Just a week later, that same person was arrested again, this time after a 9-hour standoff with law enforcement in Mecklenburg County. This time he had been charged with domestic violence related charges, assault by strangulation, kidnapping, assault on a female, communicating threats, and violation of domestic violence protective order. Again, that's just one example. This bill would put a stop to that kind of thing happening in our state because it simply does not have to happen. It's important to know and remember that this bill, it only applies to folks who have been charged with serious crimes in our states and who are here illegally. So it's not just simply a bill that deals with just illegal aliens who may be charged with some sort of low-level misdemeanor. This is talking about folks who are here illegally and also who have been charged with a serious crime in our state. What do we mean by serious crimes? Well, murder, rape, kidnapping, human trafficking, gang crimes, drug crimes, that sort of thing. And so these are folks who are here illegally, who have been arrested for the kind of crimes that I just described, and they are already in a county jail because of that. It would simply say that that ICE detainer from the federal government has to be honored and that the individual can be held for just up to 48 hours so that ICE can come in and do their job. The reality is we have a border in this country. We have federal immigration law in this country, and ICE is tasked with executing that law.
En este momento se está escuchando al representante republicano Destin Hals presentando el proyecto HB10. Sigamos escuchando, está explicando cuáles son los puntos importantes, cuál es la propuesta.
They were able to do their job in a more controlled environment in a jail. So if they have an ICE detainer, they go, they talk to the sheriff, and they go and they pick the individual up in that controlled area of the jail. But when a sheriff refuses to cooperate with them and allows folks to walk out of their jails, ICE still has to do their job. But now they have to go out into the community or into the field and try to enforce this law in a much more dangerous environment than they would otherwise be in. I've said before, and I'll say again, I think that those sheriffs who are refusing to cooperate with ICE are putting partisan politics ahead of public safety. This bill will end that. It will end this controversy, and ask you for your green vote. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Any other members who sponsor want to speak? All right. Thank you. We'll open it for committee discussion and questions.
Acabamos de escuchar un poco sobre la propuesta por parte del representante republicano Dustin Hals, quien expone cuáles son esos puntos que llevan ellos a cabo con este proyecto de ley, en la cual exige a los alguaciles consultar al ICE por la residencia legal o ciudadanía americana cuando una persona es acusada de ciertos delitos y ha sido arrestada. También en su propuesta incluye que las personas que son detenidas en un centro de reclusión local o del distrito, la HB10 agrega a su alcance a quienes están en cárceles satélites o unidad de liberación por trabajo. Sigamos escuchando lo que ocurre en el Comité Judicial 2 de la Cámara de Representantes, donde se está llevando a cabo la votación para este proyecto de ley HB10.
I think they will do that and follow this law when this bill becomes law.
Thank you, Representative Hall. I appreciate your remarks. I know this is a passionate subject matter for a lot of people, including law enforcement. We all want the state safe, and the examples you gave, we don't want to happen again. Just a couple questions. Doesn't this House bill expand who would be subject to a detainer to any person charged with any offense for any period of time in a jail to check to see if there's a detainer? So someone on an infraction, someone on a misdemeanor, driving without license.
So thank you for the question. So actually under current law, folks who are in a jail, the sheriff has to make the inquiry through the management system where they essentially determine whether a person here is illegally or not. So this is not changing that at all. I don't read this to expand that level of offenses at all. This just simply says when you're there, when that individual is arrested and they're also charged with a serious crime, the sheriff is ultimately going to have to hold that person for 48 hours because that's going to be part of their pretrial conditions of release that will be issued probably by a magistrate, but potentially by a judge.
Comment?
Comment?
Thank you. I think this bill does expand that this could apply to anyone in jail for a misdemeanor, not a serious crime, not a violent crime. And I think we've discussed before, these ICE detainers are not warrants established by probable cause. They're requests from ICE for a local sheriff to check into it. Sheriffs are not ICE agents. ICE agents are in every jurisdiction. That's one thing. But we have seen too many times examples of people on a driving offense that maybe not at 48 hours, maybe sent down to Atlanta, never to be seen by their family again. I just think this bill is too much of an overreach, too much of a violation of due process. And for those charged with serious crimes, that judge, that magistrate will be giving a no bond on murder. They will be giving $1 million bond if there is violence or trafficking or the examples that were given. My bond should be sufficient, but this added 48 hours after sentences served, after a bond has been set.
Recordamos a nuestra audiencia que en este momento pues se está llevando a cabo la votación sobre el proyecto de ley HB10, en la cual se le exigiría a los alguaciles cooperar con el ICE. En este momento nos encontramos en la sala del Comité Judicial 2 de la Cámara de Representantes. Nuestro periodista Walter Gómez y cofundador de Enlace Latino está en el lugar. Vemos imágenes de cómo se está llevando a cabo esta votación, de la propuesta por parte de los representantes republicanos que están a favor de este proyecto, de las interrogantes que hay en medio de esta discusión. Sigamos escuchando. Pues el video tiene un poco de problemas por temas de conexión del lugar, por temas de seguridad de Estado. Sin embargo, seguimos en este momento en vivo y seguiremos escuchando lo que está ocurriendo en este lugar y lo que se está llevando a cabo sobre la discusión de este proyecto HB10 que exigiría a los alguaciles de Carolina del Norte colaborar con el ICE.
Move on the part of the sheriffs, but it may be on the part of this body.
Further discussion or debate by the committee. Representative Bud.
Thank you. I know at times the word Mecklenburg is a dirty word in the General Assembly, but that is where I come from. And this county will be impacted significantly if this bill should pass. I think it goes without saying that everyone is aware that Sheriff Gary McFadden of Mecklenburg County is opposed to this bill, and he has given me a statement he would like me to read to the committee.
I'll tell you, I believe we passed it out to everyone, so I will be happy to yield to the committee, but it will limit the people's opportunity to speak.
I will take that risk. I will read it for the record.
You may read it. I don't want to speak.
As the elected sheriff of Mecklenburg County, I feel compelled to address House Bill 10 and Senate Bill 50, which I strongly oppose. Like its predecessors, HB 370, SB 101, HB 10, and SB 50 seek to force every duly elected sheriff in North Carolina to honor a voluntary immigration and customs enforcement detainer, even if the sheriff and his respective or her respective community in which they serve oppose such cooperation with ICE. These bills are another attempt to diminish the power of the sheriff and does not allow local communities to set their own policies. I remain steadfast in my belief that the people of each county, as reflected in the decisions of the sheriff whom they are elected to serve, should retain the ability to decide within clear confines of the law as to what extent local law enforcement might cooperate with federal immigration authorities. North Carolina General Statute 162-62 mandates all sheriffs in North Carolina to make a query and notify ICE regarding undocumented persons. Therefore, all sheriffs by law are already required to cooperate with ICE with or without HB 10 or SB 50 in place. Again, I stand firmly against HB 10 and SB 50 and believe that Mecklenburg County is safer when all members of our community can trust and engage with local law enforcement without fear of the repercussions as it pertains to their federal immigration status. Thank you.
Anybody want to respond? Anything?
I appreciate the members' comments, and with all due respect, I live next door to Mecklenburg County, and when it comes to issues between safe in one county or another, statistics will prove that I'm much safer in my county. So that's the argument that we're going to bring forth. I think that's a good debate to have. I'm not sure that the city sheriff here has enough credibility as he thinks he does when he talks about how to keep people safe in their community. Thank you.
Further comment for the committee. Representative Wilson.
As a small business owner in Mecklenburg County and a resident just next door in Union County, I can guarantee you that a number of arrests happen across Union County for folks coming down from Mecklenburg County. As a constituent, from a business standpoint, public safety and Mecklenburg County aren't really synonymous. The number of deaths that have happened, murders, the crime across Mecklenburg County.
Para contarles un poco, en este momento, el alguacil electo del condado de Mecklenburg dice que es quien está hablando en este momento. Dice que se encuentra obligado de abordar o de hablar sobre este proyecto, a lo que se opone firmemente, al igual que sus predecesores. Considera que buscan obligar a cada alguacil debidamente elegido en Carolina del Norte, y se debe respetar las detenciones voluntarias del Servicio de Inmigración y Control de Aduanas ICE, e incluso si el alguacil y las respectivas comunidades a las que se sirven se oponen a dicha cooperación con el ICE, considera que este proyecto de ley son otro intento de disminuir el poder del sheriff y no permiten que las comunidades locales establezcan sus propias políticas. Esto es lo que dice el alguacil del condado de Mecklenburg, quien lleva por nombre Gary Fiden. Sigamos escuchando lo que ocurre en este Comité Judicial 2 de la Cámara de Representantes frente a la votación del proyecto HB10 que obliga a los alguaciles de Carolina del Norte a cooperar con el ICE. Escuchemos.
Most days, should illegal alien felons be detected and detained by immigration and customs enforcement when in the custody of local officials? And the answer is a resounding yes. I could list so many examples of where the priority should be, because the people who are suffering are not people who got caught without a license, who got deported. The people who are suffering are the North Carolinians who have lost loved ones and property due to our government's failure to protect us from citizens of other nations that you do not represent. You have no constitutional or political responsibility to represent these citizens of other nations that unfortunately come here in large numbers and often end up depriving our citizens of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that they should enjoy. One recent example, August of 2022, Wake County Deputy Ned Bird, K-9 officer, they charged 2 illegal immigrants from Mexico with his murder. I'm not sure where the case stands at this time. If you vote against HB 10, you are saying that you don't believe that those potential suspects should have been screened.
Your time is up. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I thought you did stop. Oh, you did 30. I'm sorry.
30 seconds. In closing, please vote on behalf of the U.S. citizens that you represent and against the illegal alien felons that you want to send a clear message to the North Carolina is not a place for your next victims. Thank you.
We'll call Ann Webb from the ACLU. Ms. Webb, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Ann Webb, Senior Policy Counsel with the ACLU of North Carolina. The ACLU opposes this bill and has for the past 4 years. If enacted, HB 10 would thwart the will of the voters in North Carolina's largest counties, erode community safety by sowing distrust in law enforcement, and expose sheriffs and counties to costly lawsuits for constitutional violations. The presentation of this bill is misleading. Section B1 of the bill does apply to anyone charged with any level of offense.
En este momento está tomando la palabra una de las voceras de la organización ACLU, quienes tampoco están a favor de este proyecto, y expone el por qué estar en contra de esta propuesta o proyecto de ley. Escuchemos.
ICE's bidding by detaining individuals who are presumed innocent with any level of charges. ICE detainer requests are voluntary under federal law. By requiring sheriffs to comply with all ICE detainer requests without exception, HB 10 forces sheriffs to detain people even if ICE lacks probable cause, in violation of the Fourth Amendment. ICE has displayed a disturbing disregard for the Constitution and federal law, issuing detainers for hundreds of U.S. citizens that clearly lacked probable cause, illegally foregoing signatures on administrative warrants, and even deporting a man born in North Carolina. The bill's attempt to shield sheriffs from liability will not be sufficient to prevent costly liability for violations of constitutional rights. Please vote against this bill.
James Johnson. Mr. Johnson, come up. Give your name and who you represent.
Good morning. My name is James Johnson. I'm with NC Fire, North Carolinians for Immigration Reform and Enforcement. Let's see, February the 22nd, Guilford County, the illegal alien was charged with 2 counts of statutory rape and an offense of 13, 14, and 15-year-old by defendant 6 years older. After paying a $10,000 bond, it was released back on the streets of Guilford County without ICE being notified. Mecklenburg County, individual, December of 2022, 4 counts of indecent liberties with a child, 2 counts of statutory sex offense with a child abuse, statutory rape of a child victim under 15. Mecklenburg County Sheriff simply released him back on the streets after a $25,000 bail, as he did in September when the same individual was released from jail after being charged with 2 counts of forgery. I've got numerous examples of this, but I'll just give you one more from Cumberland County that just happened in January. January 21st, illegal alien driving drunk, slammed his car at 80 miles an hour into a 37-year-old lady named Megan Aaron Shelby. She was a nurse at Cape Fear Valley Medical Center, and she died at the scene. The individual was charged with felony death by vehicle and misdemeanor driving while impaired. The Honduran national was in the country illegally, never held a North Carolina driver's license, and despite the serious nature of charges of illegal alien status in the country, Cumberland County Sheriff refused to enforce an ICE hold on the individual, and he was released. Now, yes, there's thousands of other incidents like this on our website, and I agree that Americans commit these same types of crimes too. I don't know how to prevent those, but I do know how to prevent the ones that are being committed by illegal aliens. And HB 10 would go a long way in helping to control that population of individuals in our society, and I urge you all to support it. Thank you.
Marcelo San Juan. You have 2 minutes.
Interpreter cover?
You bag it still 2 minutes.
Mi nombre es Marisela, soy madre, soy inmigrante, pertenezco al condado de Wade. He sido parte del programa de asistencias y recursos de educación para víctimas y sobrevivientes de violencia doméstica del pueblo. Ahí aprendí lo difícil que es para una víctima de violencia doméstica hacer una denuncia o reportar a su agresor. Por eso me preocupa tanto que este proyecto de ley sea aprobado. Desanimaría a muchas personas, mujeres y jóvenes, a buscar protección por miedo a la deportación. Sé que en el pasado se han aprobado leyes para proteger y dar seguridad a las víctimas de violencia doméstica. Ese es el camino que ustedes deben seguir. Por favor, voten en contra de este proyecto de ley. Muchas gracias.
My name is Marisela. I'm a mother, an immigrant, and a resident of Wake County. I have graduated from the program Friday, an education and resource assistance program for victims and survivors of domestic violence. In that program, I learned how difficult it is for a victim of domestic violence to file a complaint and report their abuser. That is why I am so concerned about House Bill 10. It will only make this a more difficult process because women, youth, victims seeking protection will not seek that protection because their fear of deportation far outweighs the situation they live in. I know that laws have been passed in the past to protect and provide security for victims of domestic violence, and I hope that is a path you continue to follow. Please vote against HB 10. Thank you.
Story.
My name is Chris Story. I'm with ADAC, Advocates for Victims of Illegal Alien Crime. I am a victim of illegal alien crime. I'm a survivor of a crime. My brother was killed instantly by an illegal alien from Honduras who was drunk, ran a red light, killed my brother instantly. I was airlifted to Norfolk. I now live every day with PTSD, survivor's guilt. It has destroyed my family because my brother was a very good man. He's the father of 3. We live every day now without my brother because of an illegal alien from Honduras. He was arrested, charged with negligent homicide, 2 counts serious injury, and he fled. They caught him 2 weeks later. This crash happened at the Outer Banks of North Carolina. He had gotten a ticket 2 months previously for running a red light. So he ran this red light, was drunk, killed Joe instantly, almost killed me, fled to Raleigh. They got him, put him back in jail. A judge, his bond was $100,000. The judge reduced his bond, even though he was in.
A toda nuestra audiencia, en este momento se están dando testimonios a favor y en contra del proyecto de ley HB10. Escuchamos a organizaciones, escuchamos a migrantes, escuchamos también a los alguaciles. Algunos están a favor, otros en contra. En este momento habla un miembro de una organización que al parecer está en contra de este proyecto. Sigamos escuchando pues los testimonios. Se esperan más de 10 intervenciones en este momento en las cuales organizaciones, alguaciles, comunidad expresa su opinión sobre este proyecto republicano HB10. Escuchemos.
Hola, mi nombre es Romelia. Soy miembro del Comité de Liderazgo de Acción Comunitaria del Pueblo. Soy madre y soy inmigrante. Lucho por los derechos de los inmigrantes y es por eso que he venido a luchar contra la HB10. Yo entiendo que una de las razones por las cuales están defendiendo este proyecto de ley es porque quieren poder identificar a la gente. Pero en 2006 se les prohibieron a miles de inmigrantes recibir una licencia de conducir independiente de si ya tenían una, si habían pasado clases de conducir o si la necesitaban como forma de identificación. Y en 2015 se prohibieron las matrículas consulares que fueron usadas para las personas que quedaran sin el acceso a una licencia. No tenemos forma de identificarnos que sea respaldada por las leyes que existen y este proyecto de ley no provee una forma segura de identificarnos. Solamente abre las puertas a miles de personas de ser deportadas y separadas de sus hijos y seres queridos, personas buenas. Y 18 estados y distritos de Colombia tienen la póliza de la licencia a personas con ITIN para poder mantener sus comunidades más seguras y protegidas. Y sería una mejor alternativa a este proyecto. Les urjo que voten ustedes en contra de la HB10. Muchísimas gracias. Hi, my name is Romelia. I am part of a committee of action leadership at El Pueblo. I am a mother. I am an immigrant. I fight for the rights of immigrants, and that is why I'm here to fight against HB10. I understood last session that one of the reasons why you were defending this bill is because you wanted to be able to identify people. But in 2006, thousands of immigrants were prohibited from receiving a license, even regardless if they had passed driving classes, if they needed a form of identification, or if they already had one. In 2015,
Thank you. Thank you. You held up the stop sign to her. You didn't shoot anything for a second, did you? Hold on.
No,
That's what confused me the first time, because I saw the stop, but now I know why you see which time he's pointing to them. Sheriff Sam Page.
Thank you. I'll be real quick. I'm Sheriff Sam Page from Rockingham County. I'm going to speak as Sheriff of Rockingham County. I work with the Border Security Committee with the National Sheriffs, and I'm also past president of the North Carolina Sheriff's Association. Whenever possible, ICE works close to local law enforcement partners to enhance public safety by keeping criminals off the street. Detainers are effective tools to keep criminals out of local communities by allowing ICE officers to take custody of criminal non-citizens within confined jails. These detainer requests are sent to us by ICE. We work with the Warrant Service Officer Program. We're the first county in the state to do that. We have 15 counties in North Carolina that participate in the 287G program. Here in North Carolina. Thank you.
En este momento escuchábamos al alguacil de Rockingham, uno de los alguaciles que está a favor de este proyecto HB10, en la cual evidentemente se obligaría o se exigiría a los alguaciles de diferentes condados de Carolina del Norte colaborar con el ICE. Sigamos escuchando más testimonios durante esta votación del proyecto de ley HB10 en el Comité Judicial 2 de la Cámara de Representantes de Carolina del Norte.
Core policy of the 287G program statewide. In the most recent election, El Pueblo registered hundreds of Latinx voters. Some of the concerns we heard in our community are the possible collaboration between ICE and sheriffs. Both documented and undocumented families are distressed about the prejudice that elected officials have towards the Latinx communities. The constant urge to force sheriff departments to work with ICE will lead to extreme over-policing in Latinx communities. Despite public disapproval, again, it is being introduced by legislators. Although we urge Latinx community members to register to vote, show up at polling sites, and vote on election day, speak to the representatives, it is challenging for many in our communities because these representatives who pass harmful legislation time after time, targeting our communities as if we were disposable. Once again, I urge you to vote against HB 10 and instead protect our Latinx communities.
Thank you. Gilbert, I'm having trouble making the last name. Gilbert Pajan? If you'll give us your name and the spelling, I have trouble reading your writing.
All right, it's Gil Pagan, don't call me Pagan.
Okay, and it's spelled P-A.
Pagan.
Oh, okay.
And the organization is Hispanos del Sur. I'm Director of Hispanos del Sur, Hispanics of the South. We're a statewide grassroots organization that mobilizes Hispanics to educate them on policies that affect them and their families. We are speaking in support of HB 10 to verify and detain those who are accused of serious crimes while their immigration status is checked with ICE and hand them over to ICE if they are illegal. This is not an anti-immigrant bill. We have gotten feedback from our families that they're concerned about crime, drug sales, easy access to fentanyl, illegal firearm sales, and sex trafficking. When we ask if someone is arrested in your neighborhood for selling drugs, which by the way, your kid will have access to, would you want that person's immigration status checked? Oh yeah, we want it checked. When asked if someone is arrested in your community for selling illegal firearms, would you want that person's immigration status checked? Oh yeah, we want it checked. When asked if an MS-13 gang member is arrested for sex trafficking, young girls, who by the way, could be your daughter and put her at risk, would you want that person's immigration status checked? Oh yeah, we want it checked. What about physical and sexual abuse? How about that? Yes. What about drunk driving? Yes. There's some concern in our community.
En este momento escuchamos a uno de los integrantes de organizaciones de Hispanos del Sur, quien apoya, al parecer apoya lo que es este proyecto HB10, mientras unos testimonios anteriores consideran que esto es un atentado hacia el migrante acá en los Estados Unidos. Sigamos escuchando más de estos testimonios durante la votación del proyecto de ley HB10, en el cual se exige o se exigiría una cooperación de los alguaciles de todos los condados de Carolina del Norte con el ICE. Termina su intervención.
My name is Samuel Lynn. I'm with North Carolina Asian Americans Together. We're a nonpartisan nonprofit that empowers the Asian American community in North Carolina. And Asian Americans are the fastest growing racial demographic in the state. I've been lucky enough to travel across our Equal State meeting members of our community. And I'm here today to tell you that I'm firmly against HB 10 and forcing our local law enforcement to be deportation agents for ICE. Requiring sheriffs to work with ICE would diminish community trust in our law enforcement, which will only make police work even harder. When immigrants are afraid of being deported, they're less likely to report crimes, things like domestic violence, sexual assault. They're less likely to serve as witness or anyone. To the supporters of this bill, making people afraid to report crimes does not make us safe. You want to make our state safe, how about respecting the authority of the local sheriffs who refuse to feed the deportation pipeline? How about addressing the root causes of crime by investing in our communities through things like education, social services, healthcare, instead of wasting our taxpayer money on being tools for ICE? How about protecting the dignity and human rights of all North Carolinians, including our immigrants? To all our representatives, I say, if you want to make North Carolina safer, vote against HB 10. If you believe in the American dream, vote against HB 10. If you believe in liberty and justice, vote against HB 10. Give me your tire, your port, your whole masses, your name to breathe free. Nowhere does it say, but first, show me your papers. Thank you.
Thank you. And that will conclude our public comment. I indicated we would have an equal number. I thank the speakers for being very responsible with their time. We will go back to committee discussion or final debate. And seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. I'm sorry. Representative Bud.
First of all, to all the speakers who lost family members, my heart goes out to you. No one should ever have to endure that. But as an attorney, what I was listening to was a lot of anger about bond. This bill does not.
Continúan los testimonios, algunos a favor, otros en contra. En este momento va la moción, el reporte que se da durante la votación de algunos de los proyectos de ley. En este momento, el presidente o la presidenta de representantes republicana Sarah Stevens pregunta a los miembros quiénes están a favor, quiénes están en contra y se termina todo. Sigamos escuchando.
Will be released. The bill does not address that.
Just quickly, I want to clarify one thing. I know Representative Bud, you mentioned issues of bond, and folks often think of bond and what we call conditions of pretrial release, which are really two sides of the same coin. Bond is essentially the dollar figure that an individual is supposed to have to pay before they can get out. But there are also certain pretrial conditions of release. Sometimes that can be you have to have a sober adult to be released to. Sometimes that could be you have to have no contact with a given individual or not go to a certain place. And so this bill does exactly that. It exactly solves the problem that the victims of those family members just described, because it requires a judge in pretrial conditions of release to hold that individual for up to 48 hours if there is an ICE detainee.
Representative Bud.
With all due respect, it doesn't address if ICE does not pick up the immigrant, in which case then the immigrant is in fact released back into the community under those terms of control release if they are not adversely impacted by the fact an ICE detainer was placed out there in the first place. So with all due respect, the bill is actually a smokescreen for racial profiling.
I'll give you further comment if you'd like. You have the last word on
Representative
that.
Bud, I know it's your first term, but generally, most members treat each other with respect, and they don't make personal attacks like you just did, Representative Bud. I won't continue to debate the bill with you if that's the way that you're going to debate it. We've got folks up here whose family members have been killed, and we're dealing with a bill that would simply require all sheriffs in the state to do what almost every single sheriff has already been doing and has been doing for a long time.
Representative,
I wanted to apologize.
Ma'am, you may do that separately. That's fine. We're going to move on. Representative Willis.
En este momento, en el Comité Judicial 2 de la Cámara de Representantes se está llevando a cabo se está presentando la moción de apoyar esta propuesta. Se escuchan comentarios a favor, otros en contra. Ya viene la votación. Sigamos escuchando. En el lugar se encuentra nuestro periodístico fundador, Walter Gómez. Continuamos escuchando lo que está ocurriendo con respecto a la discusión o votación del proyecto de ley HB 10.
Motion. Any final comments from members of the committee? Seeing none. Any final comments from the bill sponsors? Seeing none. The question before the committee is passage of House Bill 810, H10, and with a serial referral to rules. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. No. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Bill passes and will be so reported. Thank you. Oh, and thank you all for your comments, for your demeanor, for being respectful of everyone's decision in debate. Thank you. And one last comment, members, leave your folders. No, leave your folders.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Tal como vemos en este momento, Nuestro periodista Walter Gómez se encuentra. Walter, ¿nos escuchas? Acaba de dar un reporte favorable. Acaba de dar un reporte favorable. Recordemos que estamos en vivo.
Sí, si me estás escuchando, disculpe la desprolijidad, estamos en vivo. Muy buenos días a todos los amigos de Enlace Latino. Acaba de terminar el Comité Judicial. Reporte favorable va al Comité de Reglas y Operaciones. La pregunta es ¿cuándo? No hay calendario por ahora visible de lo que es cuándo va a sesionar este Comité de Reglas y Operaciones. Así que veremos, vamos a hablar con algunos representantes para si hay alguna noticia en cuanto el Comité de Reglas y Operaciones estaría operando. Si no es hoy, mañana, que no está el calendario, esto podría ser el lunes en forma expedita. Recordamos luego de la votación en lo que es el Comité de Reglas y Operaciones, pasaría al Pleno de la Cámara de Representantes y al proceso al Senado. Escucharon hoy voces a favor, en contra. Las discrepancias varían en cuanto a lo que sería las 48 horas, que realmente es una orden que no es una orden de un juez, sino es una orden administrativa. Ahí está la pelea, y también la pelea apunta a los alguaciles más progresistas. Bien lo dejó dicho Destin Hall, son algunos alguaciles que no cumplen con la ley, ¿no? Es una discusión realmente abierta, reiteramos. Todavía no se sabe cuándo se pondría a discusión en el Comité de Reglas y Operaciones. Estamos mirando ahora, observando si podemos tener esa información para ustedes, pero se cierra con en esta transmisión que hicimos de aquí. Gracias, Jessica, por apoyarnos, y veremos realmente si esto se mueve. Reiteramos, hoy puede ser sorpresa, 4:30 de la tarde. Nunca nadie aquí sabe los procedimientos, o reiteramos el lunes. Si me dan un segundito.
Claro que sí, Walter.
Estamos, ya le digo, en vivo. Vamos a acercarnos acercarnos a la representante María Cervania, que está conversando, y preguntarle a ella si tienen alguna novedad sobre cuándo el Comité de Reglas y Operaciones estaría, digamos, operando o entraría otra vez en sesión. Reiteramos, 2 días sin calendario por ahora, pero aquí en la Asamblea el procedimiento o lo que es la forma realmente aparecen de la nada, ¿no? Como fantasma. Entonces hay que estar muy, muy atento cómo trabajan, digamos, de esta forma. Y reiteramos, hubo presencia del alguacil de Rockingham, como esperábamos. No se presentó el alguacil de Mecklenburg, Gary Faden. Él envió lo que es un statement, fue leído, y algo muy personal contra él, porque fue uno de los primeros alguaciles en los que está levantando la voz en cuanto a estar en oposición bien clara de este proyecto, que tiene su versión similar en el Senado, que es el SB 50, Jessica.
¿Es posible que estos alguaciles que no asistieron el día de hoy vayan a este próximo Comité de Reglas y Operaciones, Walter? ¿Estén presentes?
Creo que sí. Creo que muchas veces se dividen, así que su trabajo, su presencia, cuando sería más, digamos, estratégica de tenerlo, y creo que en cuanto a eso podemos pensar que se movilizarán realmente creo, en el próximo comité. Así que acá seguimos realmente en vivo. Ya digo, ya las organizaciones, lo que se consideran antimigrantes, están presentes, por supuesto, cuando surge un proyecto aquí. Así que vamos a...
Okay, escuchamos.
Vamos a hablar ahora con María Cervania, le vamos a consultar a ella. Y nada más, vamos a saludarla a ella. Es la primera mujer, digamos, que está haciendo también historia aquí, de origen asiático. Son 2 mujeres inmigrantes. Así que, Maria, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Okay.
Maria, what is the next? Because no have today calendar for rules. When you have the news about that bill,
Right.
when maybe.
So rules will be on Tuesday of next week. We're working so hard to fight this, at least to communicate that there's another story, not just the stories that have been communicated. You know, we don't want people to feel like they're guilty before they're proven innocent, and carve out important people in our community that there's a determination of their guilt before they even can have fair trial, right?
Yes. Maria, one Destinhal today talking about the immigrant. What is your feeling? You are immigrant.
I'm crying. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Like I, you know, it's been my honor that you elected me here, and it's been such hard work. I've talked to many of the community, and we have to keep fighting and letting people know that there's another face to this. And, you know, I feel so badly for the families who lost their family members, but also we're here to represent everyone. And we can't have people think that just because we look different, that we have lesser rights than anybody else.
Thank you so much and have a good day. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate it.
We'll keep fighting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Un poco de lo que dice María es esa pelea, ¿no?
Sí, mantener la pelea.
migrantes.
Sí, como migrante, el sentimiento cuando escuchan todo lo que se nos habla o todo lo que directamente, digamos, acusan a los migrantes, ¿no? María acaba de confirmar, según ella, calendario sería el próximo martes, que el Comité de Reglas y Operaciones que tomaría este proyecto y de ahí lo mantendría. Pero bueno, importante lo que dice María, nadie es culpable hasta que un juez lo declare, ¿no? Y esto está hablando porque el proyecto lo que hace cuando uno lo acusan de un delito, automáticamente lo pone en manos de ICE y no lo dejan hacer el debido proceso, ¿no? Eso es lo que se pelea también legalmente. María, entonces ya acá nos estamos despidiendo porque nos están cerrando las puertas.
Walter, gracias.
Gracias, Jessica. Seguimos saludando aquí. Cualquier impresión hoy lo van a tener en la nota que vamos a realizar luego. Pero gracias también, Jessica, compartiendo en el estudio, en vivo, en directo, Comité Judicial de la Cámara de Representantes, reiteramos, en vivo para Enlace Latino, aquí en todo este proceso de lo que es el proyecto HB10, 10 personas, justo como dice el proyecto, hablaron, pro y contras, lamentable también escuchar voces latinas que están a favor, así que...
Impresionante escuchar a los hispanos del sur. Tengo entendido
Sí.
que estuvieron presentes y escuchando la forma tan dura que se expresaron contra los migrantes, ¿no?
Exacto, efectivamente. Y esto es lo que habla un poco María Cervania. Reiteramos, una de las 2 primeras mujeres asiáticas electas aquí por primera vez y bueno, sacude escuchar todo esto y de aquí transmitiendo en vivo y llevando todo ese sentimiento, todo lo que rodea este proyecto y bien como decía también la representante Booth de Mecklenburg, esto es un ataque directo, lo sienten a lo que es el alguacil de Mecklenburg, ¿no? El primero en levantar la voz desde la propuesta HB 370 en el 2019, esta época, siempre ha luchado en contra de esto, ¿no? Es elegido popularmente y ahora quieren imponer otras razones. Bueno, los dejamos a todos entonces, espero y disculpen todo la desprolijada de esta transmisión en vivo, la habitación es muy chiquita y bueno, ahí pudimos llevarle por lo menos algunas imágenes y voces de lo que ha ocurrido hoy.
Listo, Walter. Bueno, evidentemente despidiéndonos, ya nuestro compañero Walter Gómez se despide de nosotros. Él va a estar evidentemente en el lugar esperando la próxima fecha en la cual esta discusión pasa al Comité de Reglas y Operaciones. Esperamos que esto se defina, si realmente es lunes, próxima semana, qué día realmente es. Y seguimos pues nosotros llevándoles a ustedes, nuestra audiencia, todo lo que vaya a ocurrir con este proyecto HB10, que de alguna manera obligaría a los alguaciles de los diferentes condados de Carolina del Norte a cooperar directamente con el ICE. Escuchamos testimonios a favor y en contra. Esperemos que seguirá ocurriendo. Sabemos que esto va muy rápido de acuerdo a los tiempos cuando se discuten o se dan estas votaciones con respecto a estos proyectos de ley. Gracias por acompañarnos. Continúen conectados con nosotros a través de nuestras redes sociales, de nuestra página, enlace latinoensi.org. Ahí abajo pueden leer nuestras redes sociales en Twitter, Facebook e Instagram. Nos van a encontrar. También tenemos habilitado nuestro canal de WhatsApp, en la cual podemos atender todas sus denuncias, comentarios, dudas y preguntas con respecto a cualquier tema que estemos conversando y publicando en nuestra página web de Enlace Latino en sí. Gracias por acompañarnos una vez más y que tengan un bonito día.